and my rich dad's guidance to become an investor. This audiobook should be of interest to you whether you have very little money to invest or have a lot to invest, whether you know very little about investing or you know a lot about investing. It is about a very complex subject, but written as simply as possible. It is written for anyone interested in becoming a better informed investor, regardless of how much money they have. If this is your first audiobook on investing and you are concerned that it might be too complicated, please do not be concerned. All I ask is that you have a willingness to learn and listen to this audiobook from the beginning to the end with an open mind. If there are parts of the audiobook that you do not understand, then just listen to the words and continue on to the end. Even if you do not understand everything, you will know more about the subject of investing than many people who are currently investing in the market just by listening all the way through to the conclusion. In fact, by listening to the entire audiobook, you will know a lot more about investing than many people who are being paid to give their investment advice. This audiobook begins with the simple and goes into the sophisticated without getting too bogged down in detail and complexity. In many ways, this audiobook starts simple and remains simple, although it covers some very sophisticated investor strategies. This is a story of a rich man guiding a young man, with pictures and diagrams to help explain the often confusing subject of investing. The 90-10 Rule of Money. My rich dad appreciated the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto's discovery of the 80-20 rule, also known as the principle of least effort. Yet when it came to money, rich dad was more aware of the 90-10 rule, which says that 10% of the people make 90% of the money. I am personally concerned because more and more families are counting on their investments to support them in the future. The problem is that while more people are investing, very few of them are well-educated investors. When the market crashes, what will happen to all these new investors? The federal government of the United States insures our savings from catastrophic loss, but it does not insure our investments. That is why, when I asked my rich dad, what advice would you give the average investor, his reply was, don't be average. How not to be average. I became very aware of the subject of investing when I was just 12 years old. Up until that age, the concept of investing was not really in my head. Baseball and football were on my mind, but not investing. I had heard the word, but I had not really paid much attention until I saw what the power of investing could do. I remember walking along a beach with the man I call my rich dad and his son Mike, my best friend. Rich dad was showing his son and me a piece of real estate he had just purchased. Although only 12 years old, I realized that my rich dad had just purchased one of the most valuable pieces of property in our town. Even though I was young, I knew that oceanfront property with a sandy beach in front of it was more valuable than property without a beach on it. My first thought was, how can Mike's dad afford such an expensive piece of property? I stood there with the waves washing over my bare feet, looking at a man the same age as my real dad who was making one of the biggest financial investments of his life. I was in awe of how he could afford such a piece of land. I knew that my dad made much more money because he was a highly paid government official with a bigger salary. But I also knew that my real dad could never afford to buy land right on the ocean. So, how could Mike's dad afford this land when my dad couldn't? Little did I know that my career as a professional investor had begun the moment I realized the power built into the word investing. Some 40 years after that walk on the beach with my rich dad and his son Mike, I now have people asking me many of the same questions I began asking that day. In the investment classes I teach, people ask me questions similar to those I began asking my rich dad. Questions such as, how can I invest when I don't have any money? I have $10,000 to invest. What